Africa time is exactly 8:48 a.m. and we are now joined by Sherelee Odayar. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She is oil and gas campaigner at Greenpeace Africa and undoubtedly jumping for joy because South Africa's Constitutional Court has brought Shell and Impact Africa's plan to explore for oil and gas along the Wild Coast to an end, delivering a major victory for affected coastal communities and, of course, environmental groups like the one that Sherelee represents. Very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Julian. Good morning to the listeners.
A big, big win for Greenpeace Africa and other campaigners, environmental campaigners. This has been a long struggle, has it not?
Yeah. So it's definitely a big win for the communities of the Wild Coast who have been fighting this for many years. The litigation actually started from 2021, but this exploration right has been, I think, there for the past 12 years or so on. And this victory is, much bigger than just stopping, one project. It's such a victory for the Wild Coast communities, who now, who fought to defend their livelihoods, their culture, and now they have, meaningful say in decisions that affect them.
So, Sherelee, take us back to when this all started. Did that mean that the community were in limbo? I mean, it's no mean feat that they've won this case because clearly companies like Shell have got lots of money behind them. And it must have cost the community so much and organizations like yourselves to fight, to take this fight to court, to the ConCourt. But during all of these hearings, going back and forth, what was the situation like for the communities there? And we do know that they live off the sea, off the water, and the impact that would have had regarding their future and the future generations in those communities.
Yes, so essentially, so if we go back to the first findings in 2022, where, the judgment of the High Court, it found that this exploration right granted to Shell and Impact Africa was unlawful due to proper, meaningful consultation that flawed the public participation process. So essentially, it meant that whatever developments needs to come in an area, communities have to be consulted with first. We can't just put a development there where it will essentially affect their way of life, their livelihoods, their cultural heritage, and in this case, the ocean. So it's, the marine ecosystem, the biodiversity, the livelihoods of fishers that have been fishing there for generations and generations. It's something that they pass on to their children and children's children. And then after all that, after the High Court decision, it was appealed at the Supreme Court of Appeal, and it allowed Shell the opportunity to proceed with its third exploration right, which had been submitted, unknown to the community. And the Supreme Court of Appeal granted the suspension order, even though it agreed that the right, in fact, was unlawfully granted in the first place. And now, with this Constitutional Court judgment, they found that the Supreme Court of Appeal had misdirected itself in determining what constituted a just and equitable remedy where the right had been found to have been granted unlawfully itself. And that, the deficiencies in the original exploration right could not be remedied after the fact through a consultation process at a renewal stage. So they basically confirmed the failures in the original process and, including the inadequate consultation with the affected communities.
So, Sherelee, when we look at this ruling, we know that Shell and Impact Africa has billions of dollars behind them. Is this ruling final, Or is there still a chance for Shell and Impact Africa to appeal this finding? Are you
So
concerned about that with all of their money behind them?
yeah, so this ruling is final. They cannot appeal it. What they can do is they can go back to the drawing board. So basically start the entire process all over again. And yes,
That's a
it is a
frightening
it is
thought,
a
is it not?
cause.
It's a frightening thought.
Yeah, it is a cause for concern, of course, because, like you said, they have billions. But also, I think, if anything, it will make us stronger. It will, because if you've seen over the past 5 years, the resilience, the fight in the communities is just something that is, just unexplainable. The unity amongst, the coastal community, everyone, and not just in South Africa, but the entire continent standing up for this coastal community of the Wild Coast and saying no to Shell. So our resilience will still be there.
So this was a classic case of David and Goliath, was it not?
Absolutely a classic case of David and Goliath. Yeah, and we won.
Okay. Where to from here for Greenpeace Africa and other environmental groups? We've got to win under, under our hat, so to speak. There are other issues around the country as well regarding the environment. There's also issues around mining, deforestation by companies that go into communities and then chop down trees, etc. All of those impacts are huge. What's your next big fight on your hands?
Well, I think this ruling has implications far beyond the Wild Coast, and it sends a very clear message to both government and oil and gas companies that these exploration rights cannot be granted first, and then the rights of communities dealt with later. And for future projects, especially in environmentally and culturally sensitive areas, meaningful consultation has to happen before the decisions are made. Governments must properly consider that people who depend on those environments for their livelihoods, as well as their cultural and customary rights, and the potential environmental consequences of the exploration. So ultimately, this judgment strengthens that principle that South Africa's oceans, coastlines, and other ecologically sensitive areas cannot simply be treated as sacrifice zones for fossil fuel development, but development must happen within the constitution, environmental law, and the rights of the communities who will carry the consequences. So there are many oil and gas applications around the coastline, and but South Africa has a big civil society organizations that are fighting this, a wide range of organizations that are standing up against the oil and gas explorations that can, destroy livelihoods of our communities. But also, we need to take into consideration the climate crisis. The more fossil fuels we invest in, the more fossil fuels we burn, the deeper the climate crisis is going to hit, and we see that in the form of extreme weather events. So the government, we need to push the government to start investing into more renewables.
Okay, so to wrap up, let me just put the question to you once again. Whilst all of this was happening for that many years, how did it impact on the psyche of the local communities? Was it just business as usual, or was it a dark cloud hanging over their heads? Were they not as productive as they would like to have been because of this issue around Shell and Impact Africa?
I won't say continued as business as usual, because, of course, they had to be aware of what is happening in the community. There had to be a lot of mobilization and planning around the case and campaigning around the case for the communities as well. But of course, they had to go on with their lives as well, fend for their families, continue with their farming livelihoods, fishing livelihoods, and so on. Yes, it was something that was hanging over their heads, but from what I've seen, it just made them stronger.
Wow. Really great news indeed, and may you guys forge ahead with other such issues as and when they do arise. We know there's lots of these playing out in the country, not only in South Africa, but all around the world. So you guys keep strong and make your voices heard. Thank you for being with us, and our congrats to the people, the communities along the Wild Coast. We celebrate their win as well. God bless.
Thank you.
8:58 a.m. News and Views on Salam Media. A reminder that the second hour of News and Views right here on Salam Media is brought to you by African Muslims agencies. And also in this hour of the show, we take a listen to the Fired Up series with Hafiz Imran Chunara, who is a personal excellence mentor and also CEO of African Muslims agencies. And the topic today is grief is the price we pay for love. Oh, something I shouldn't miss. None of us should miss. The topic is grief is the price we pay for love. And that's on the Fired Up series brought to you by African Muslims agencies. It is 8:59 a.m.